And we are live. What is up, guys? How is it going? You got Daisha here coming to you from Amadon, North Dakota. And today is episode number 4 of the TWS interview series. I have Kady here with me today. Kady, you want to tell everybody who you are and where you're coming in from?
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. We are so excited to talk about the Team Warrior Summit with you. I am Kady Romagnuolo. I'm a mindset and performance coach out in the greater Kingston area in Canada. And I focus on helping people conquer their fear and working through self-sabotage.
Man, and I feel like that's such a huge struggle. So I'm really grateful that there's someone like you out there teaching everybody about this. So guys, as you guys start jumping on, please drop a hashtag live below if you are jumping on the live. That way we can give you guys a proper shout out. And speaking of the Team Warrior Summit, we'll be right back after this. And we are back. All right, guys, as I said, make sure you guys start saying hi in the comments below so we can give you a shout out. So Kady, I have a couple questions for you today. Super excited to have you as one of the speakers on the summit. I mean, we were just stoked when we found out that we were actually going to be able to have you on here with us. So the first question I have for you, yeah, and you seem like you have such like a lively, confident, and vibrant personality. Were you always this way growing up, or was that kind of something you developed like later on in life?
Oh, goodness, no. And just thank you so much for that, because it really means a lot. Just knowing my own personal story, which I'm going to share more with you. I definitely was not somebody that could, number one, even take a picture, or, definitely couldn't be on a live stream like this when I was a teenager. Yeah, absolutely no. I wouldn't have even tried, because I felt way too self-conscious to just speak. Like, words wouldn't have come out. And in high school, I was somebody that was a lot more reserved. So I used avoidance to really get through some of the challenging things that were happening there. And I went to one of the worst rated high schools in Calgary, Alberta, where it was really, really challenging to stay out of crime or drugs, anything that was quite honestly something that was self-sabotaging. Everything was going on every day that people were not building a future on. And it was really tough to stay out of that. So what happened for me was, in trying to make sure that, okay, I know that I really don't want to participate in this, but everybody else is doing it. So the only way I know how, because I really didn't have anybody to talk to or role models or people that were doing anything different, I would say, okay, I'm going to focus on not being there. So how do I focus on not being there, but people are pressuring me to be there? Well, it allowed me to say, okay, well, what do I need to not be there? I need a car. So I need a driver's license. So it kind of drove me to do things that maybe I wouldn't have, just to get away from people, because I was way too shy or way too nervous, or, scared that something was going to happen that I didn't want for my future.
That is awesome. And I like that you kind of hinted towards that, because I was kind of the same way. Like, I was a really shy, introverted person. Like, I didn't talk to people. I was always overweight and got made fun of a lot. So that drove me to do the same thing. Like, I had my license by 15 years old. I was able to move out of my parents' house by 17. Like, I feel like people that go through those traumatic times, they end up being some of the most successful people out there, because they had to push themselves to stay away from the things that were self-sabotaging and actually focus on what they actually wanted to do.
Yeah, 100%.
DW's. Thank you so much. And DW says, live from New York. Naomi says, hey guys, so excited to see you. Appreciate you jumping on here with us, Naomi. So second question I have for you. So I know that you are a certified NLP master practitioner. Is that right?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. So I know what NLP is, right? But the whole other master practitioner, all of that is kind of nonsense in my mind. So can you kind of explain to all of us what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. So NLP is, for anyone who doesn't know out there, stands for neuro-linguistic programming. And that just relates to our mind. So neural linguistics about how we actually function each day. So what is our mind doing? And then linguistics relates to how do we communicate? So the interesting thing about the work is it's not necessarily about what am I saying to you? How am I communicating to you? It also is, what am I saying to myself? What is it that I'm internalizing about what you're saying to me that actually relates in my brain a very specific way that is unique to me and will be different for every single person out there? So we deal with the mind, how we communicate, And then it's the process of what we do that creates who we are. So what a lot of people may not realize is when you think about an event happening each day. So I'm sitting here live with you. This is an event in my life, right? This is something that's happening as an experience. And as that experience is happening, I'm, taking in with all my senses what's going on. There's sounds, there's comments that are coming in. I'm paying attention to the video there. But what is that actually doing in my mind? So am I relating this experience in a positive way, in a neutral way? What is it that's happening for me specifically? And that becomes a process of my actions. And now this sounds like a big complex thing that might be going on, but it really happens in an instant for people. So I see something, I internalize it, and all of a sudden it's a process of how my actions are coming forward because of my past experiences. So I work with, on a master level, is just kind of just another level up from the standard practitioner level. And what that means is I have the ability to really use high level content, high level tools and resources to get into the unconscious parts of us where we hold those experiences. Yeah, so I like to call it the filters. I work with the filters that are underneath the surface that allow you to show up either in the way that maybe you want to, or sometimes the way that you don't want to show up. How do we flip that script and change that process that's happening?
That's really cool. And guys, I say this on my videos all the time. Like, we're only about 5% conscious throughout the day. The other 95% is just running off of our subconscious. So learning something like Kady has learned, to be able to tap into that unconscious, the subconscious mind, and be able to reprogram that, that's something that's really, really powerful. And that's one of the few things that she's probably going to be diving into on the Teen Warrior Summit. Are you going to be speaking a little bit about that on the Teen Warrior Summit?
Yeah, absolutely. Because sometimes the things that we think we need to address that are happening in our lives, the feelings that are showing up, right, or the frustration or heaviness really comes from those filters, right? That all of that 95% that's underneath what we consciously know, it's really where we can make change in people's lives, and how you make steps forward is in that unconscious part.
Now, with you being like a coach for people, has like learning NLP been a big part of you being able to coach people like properly, or is it kind of like a completely separate thing?
Yeah, so I like to say that I fell into this work completely accidentally. So I never honestly intended, when I was growing up, I never intended on being a coach. It wasn't what I was aspiring to be. But I had a lot of traumatic things happen in my childhood, through my early adult years. And as much as I thought, okay, well, I'm going to move past them. I'm strong. I'm going to, have goals and do what I need to do. I kept falling back on old patterns of self-sabotaging ways. And the key was, I had no idea at the time that I was self-sabotaging. All I knew was I felt like crap every day, right? Like I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. I had on the outside, a pretty good job as a real estate agent at the time. And I just felt like I just wasn't doing enough. I wasn't good enough. I had a lot of negative self-talk that was happening. So I ended up at a real estate conference. And at that conference, it really pushed my boundaries because I was very introverted. The thought of being in a room with a whole bunch of other people that were in my industry as, pretty high level top producers in the industry was a really nerve-wracking feeling for me. And I coped with that by my old strategies that I had from high school. Avoidance, right? Like, okay, well, avoid the things that you're scared of because then they won't be a problem. Well, that was a big mistake because maybe they weren't a problem in that small moment and I bypassed that uncomfortable feeling for a second. But then the next time something had to happen that was a similar event, or, I had to talk in front of somebody, all of a sudden all those old feelings would just flood in, and it was like debilitating anxiety that was happening under the surface. So I ended up at this real estate conference really by force. The team leader that I was working with at the time was all expenses paid, and I had no excuse to get out of it. I tried everything I could think of, right? And I ended up sitting in this room. It's a 3-day event, and I'm like, how do I get out of here? Like, what do I do that can help me get out of this big group where hopefully I won't have to then talk to anybody or, put my hand up and answer a question, right? And so I walked out and went into one of these little breakout sessions that was a smaller group. And that is where I met the trainers of the NLP program that I went through. And it was never on my radar, wasn't something I was looking at doing. All I knew was in that moment, I felt like these people had something that kind of made sense to me. I didn't really understand what it meant or filters or like, what are you talking about? But I know that I had stuff under the surface that was preventing me from showing up confidently, right? It was preventing me from feeling like I was good enough to be in this room with these other professionals. And I was good enough to be there on paper. Like, it was whatever, a stranger would have looked at my stats and okay, great. Like, you're a person that belongs in this room. But my feeling about who I was at that stage in life was very different. So I met them by accident on another career.
That's really, really cool. And I think that's really cool because you had said for a long time you were trying to get yourself out of the situation of not falling back into old habits. And then all of a sudden, it basically just got attracted to you, like being put in the most difficult situation to be able to obtain one of the things that you needed the most. So I just think
Yeah.
that's absolutely amazing.
Oh, I
So,
love that.
so based off of like all the struggles that you've had to overcome, I mean, all the growth that you've obviously overcome through learning NLP and now becoming a coach, if there was a teenager out there right now dealing with low self-esteem, like you were talking about, and they were listening in right now, what advice would you give to them?
So number one is wherever you are today is not where you're destined to be. If you're feeling anything that is not positive, right? So the heavy feelings are hard for all of us. They're different for everybody, right? It may come in different types of feelings. So if there's anywhere that you are right now that you know is not where you want to be, know that that is not your destiny. That things can change much quicker than you realize if you allow yourself to ask some questions. So the first thing for me that allowed me to have some steps forward to healing from what was going on and connecting some dots and making steps forward was really coming out and saying, I have a lot of anxiety. Like, just saying it out loud to somebody was a huge, huge step for me. And they quite honestly came with a lot of tears. I felt shame in that moment because I thought, hey, like, I'm grown up here. I'm supposed to have everything together, but I didn't. And I needed to be able to voice that, to say that first, because a funny thing happens when you ask a question or when you voice something that's happening with you. It starts drawing in resources. And this is whether you realize it intentionally. Like, it's not that, say, I say to you, Daisha, today, well, hey, you've got some amazing programs that I love, and I would like some more information on them. That's a deliberate question, right? That I'm putting out to you to draw in some resources on maybe what I need. But the same thing happens in a major energetic way. It's maybe something we don't fully understand yet, but this happens time and time again, where the moment you voice something that's important, that's happening, that you need to let go of or that you need to find, something starts drawing in resources for you. Those resources could be, aligning with a mentor or seeing a program or, watching a free podcast or something that just speaks with you. So follow those little cues. Today is not where you're meant to be. It is not going to be forever. Things will change. Allow yourself to express what's happening, even if you don't know where that's going to go. Something's going to show up for you. I promise. I have seen it and felt it and delivered it in my own life, but also have seen it in countless other individuals who just follow that first step.
Man, I love that. So guys, again, I mean, it really all goes back to awareness, right? Like, really recognize, what are you feeling, right? If you're a teenager right now, I know that you guys have your hormones going on. You got school, you got your parents yelling at you to do all your chores, right? It's hard. But one thing that you need to be able to focus on is yourself, right? It's okay for you to be able to look within yourself and say, I'm feeling kind of depressed. I'm feeling kind of anxious, like Kady was saying, and just being able to voice it and then recognize, okay, what is it that I want? Right. And then, like she said, just start recognizing the signs and following that bouncing ball. And it's going to be scary, right? Stepping into that unknown field, but it's okay for you to be able to grow. If you really want to get to where you want to be in life, you have to get into that uncomfortable zone. So, Kady, that's for a teenager. Would you recommend the same type of thing for an adult or something different?
Yeah. So the funny thing is the breadcrumbs are different. That bouncing ball, the step is going to be a little bit different. So what happens is oftentimes I quite honestly work with parents who come to me and say, well, this and this is going on in the household, and I just really want to be able to help my kid, right? Like I don't want to see them going through what they're going through, but I'm actually going through things myself. And I can't tell my children about this because it's stuff that we shouldn't be necessarily talking about. So there's legitimate problems that are happening in households that relate to kids and parents together, but also we have our separate and individual concerns that are happening. So the very first step in that sense is pulling yourself out of the role of needing to fix something for your child. Say if that, relationship is mirroring back and forth. Well, maybe I'm having this issue as a parent that says I need to be able to help my child because they're feeling really sad. Well, where is it in your life specifically that you might be having feelings of sadness or whatever that feeling is that's popping out that you feel like you need to fix in somebody else? Where is that happening for you in your life? And we don't always get it right away, right? Like awareness, back to the things that we don't realize are going on that unconscious level in your filters, right? So what is it that's happening for you specifically? And the best questions are the keys to awareness, right? Question that you can ask yourself in a moment where you're having a struggle around anything. It doesn't matter what the problem is in the end. Is ask yourself, what does this have to do with me? I'm watching somebody else struggle right now and I just can't stand it, right? It hurts my heart. Well, what does that have to do with me? Okay, there's going to be a different answer for every single person. Or watching that there's, some sort of issue that keeps popping up in a pattern throughout your life. Maybe it's a financial strain, a relationship strain, whatever it is. What does this problem that keeps presenting have to do with me? And the answer will be different every single time. And then once you get that answer, it's, well, how is that a problem? So I'll give you an example. In a relationship, maybe it comes about, I'll give you an exact example. I had this funny little thing with my husband where a few years back, we had the Keurig coffee machine that you pour the water in each morning and make sure it's full. Yeah. Well, I was continually not filling the water and had completely off my radar. I was just using the machine and leaving it empty for him. And so one morning he says, can you fill the water? And it was a nice way of saying it. He wasn't angry or anything. And he's like, hey, maybe fill up the water jug. And what happened for me in that instant, this was well before I did any work on myself. What happened for me in that instant was I immediately felt angry. Yep. Angry that he told me to fill the water, right? And I had to think to myself afterwards, okay, I was just kind of learning these tools. And I said, okay, what does this have to do with me? Why am I so angry? This is water. What does this have to do with me? And it's because it brought out the feeling that I can't do anything right. And that was a running theme in my unconscious mind from my childhood that was very deep-seated, that I wasn't aware of quite yet. So what does this have to do with me? Oh, shoot, it really makes me angry. Okay, well, how is that a problem? Well, it makes me feel like I can't do anything right. And that's a big problem in my life because it's causing me to not do anything in fear that I'm just not going to do it right. So, hey, don't fill the water. Don't fill the water because maybe you'll do it wrong is the funny thing that was happening in my unconscious mind.
That is crazy. There's always a reason, guys. So awareness is key, and questions, guys. That's the biggest thing that I could say out of this video is just be aware and ask questions. Kady, I want to thank you so much for jumping on here with me and just giving a little bit of yourself here on this video. And guys, she is going to be on the Teen Warrior Summit this October. Kady, is there anything else that you wanted to say before we jump off?
Oh, just honestly, if you have any interest in what we're talking about, and I think you do, take the next step and click on our links. Figure out some more info for you guys. And we're here for you. Reach out if you have questions because we love to answer your questions.
Exactly. Questions. All right, guys. We're gonna go ahead and hop off here. Go to teenwarriorsummit.com if you are on my page. If you are on Kady's page, please click the link that she will have in the description below. We want to make sure that all the commissions get paid out to the proper people. We appreciate you so much for jumping on here, and we will catch you guys in the next video. Bye for now. The Teen Warrior Summit was created out of the desire to have the much needed discussions when it comes to teens. So many teens now are dealing with depression, anxiety, negative self-talk, suicidal thoughts, and even addiction. They become addicted to technology, smartphones, porn, video games, social media, and even drugs. We aim to arm teens with the tools needed so they can be their own superheroes in life. The 5 elements of a superhero are confidence, courage, commitment, control, and purpose. That is what we are going to be teaching you inside of the Teen Warrior Summit.